Welcome student in part 2 of chapter How do organisms reproduce. In this video, we will learn about the sexual reproduction in plants and in humans. Sexual reproduction. The production of new organism from two parents by making use of their sex cells, that is known as gametes, is known as sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, a male gamete fuses with a female gamete to form a new cell, which is known as zygote. This zygote then grows and develops into a new organism in due course of time. The cells which are involved in sexual reproduction are called sex cells, gametes, or germ cells. Let's learn about the significance of sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is a source of variation. Mixing of two organisms give rise to new combinations or variations. Sexual reproduction involves the mating of germ cells and which is also known as gametes. These gametes are haploid in nature, that is, they have half the set of chromosomes. These gametes are formed through the process of meiosis, when male gametes and female gametes, each with haploid set of chromosomes combine, they'll form a diploid zygote. Zygote undergoes repeated divisions to form a new organism. In human, male gamete is small and motile, whereas female gamete is large and non-motile. Let's start the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. The plant in which the sex organs are carried within the flower and the seeds are enclosed in a fruit are called angiosperms, that is, flowering plants. The flowering plants are produced by sexual reproduction method. Function of a flower is to make male and female gamete and to ensure that fertilization will take place to make new seeds for the production of plants. A flower is said to be unisexual if it contains either stamen or pistil. Whereas if both stamen and pistil, that is male reproductive organ and the female reproductive organs are present, it is known as bisexual flower. Papaya and watermelon are unisexual, whereas hibiscus and mustard are bisexual in nature. This is the typical diagram of a flower where it has four important whorls. The name of those whorls are petal, that is corolla and calyx, stamen, and this entire ovary, that is pistil. Pistil is further divided, it has three parts: stigma, style, and the ovary. Whereas stamen has two parts: anther and filaments. These are the four important whorls of flowers. A typical flower has all these four whorls. Parts of flower. The main parts of flower are receptacle, sepal, petals, stamen, and pistil. Receptacle is the base of a flower to which all the parts of flower are attached, and it's known as receptacle. Sepals are green in color, which are outermost leaf-like structure, floral organ. The function of it is to protect the flower in bud stage. Then comes the petal, which is colorful part of flower, and these are known as petals as well, corolla in group. The petal lie inside the sepal. Function of petal is to attract insects for pollination. They also provide protection to centrally placed reproductive organ of flower. Stamen. Stamen is a male reproductive part and it produces pollen grains that are yellow in color. The stalk of stamen is called filament and the swollen top is known as anther. Anther of the stamen makes the pollen grains and stores them. Then comes the carpel. Carpel is present in the center of flower and is the female reproductive part. Carpel is also known as pistil. It is made up of three parts. The swollen bottom part is ovary, middle elongated part is a style, and terminal part, which may be sticky, is known as stigma. Pollination. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma is known as pollination. When the pollen grains and the stigma is of the same flower, it is known as self-pollination. But when pollen grains from one flower lands on the stigma of another flower, it is known as cross-pollination. The ovary, which is the swollen part of the pistil, contain ovules, and each ovule has an egg cell inside it. Flower which contain only sex organs, either the stamen, which is a male reproductive organ, or carpel, which is a female reproductive organ, is known as unisexual flower. And the flower which contain both the sex organs is known as bisexual flower. A new seed of the plant is formed when the male gamete in the pollen grain unites with the female gamete present in the ovule, right? So the male gamete which are present inside the pollen grain when fuses with the ovule, it leads to the formation of a seed. Fertilization is a process when male gamete fuses with the female gamete. When a male gamete moves down through the pollen tube enters the ovule in the ovary. The tip of pollen tube bursts, opens, and male gamete comes out of the pollen tube inside the ovary. In ovary, the male gamete of pollen combines with the nucleus of female gamete to form endonucleus and the egg cell present in the ovule to form the zygote. So here, two fertilizations takes place, one with the nucleus which is present at the center and another one with the egg cell which is present at the end. So the type of fertilization that take place in the flowering plant is double fertilization. After fertilization, the zygotes divide several times to form an embryo within the ovule, and the ovule develops a tough coat and is gradually converted into seed. The ovary grows rapidly and ripens to form a fruit. The other parts of the plant, flower like petals, sepals, stamens, stigma, style, dries up and falls off. A seed. After fertilization, after development of an ovule and ovary leads to formation of a fruit and a seed. A seed is reproductive unit of a plant. The seed contains a baby plant or embryo and food for the baby plant. The part of a baby plant is seed which develop into shoot with leaves is called plumule, and the part from which develops into a root is known as radicle. The part of seed which contains store food is in a seed is known as cotyledon. When the seeds get suitable conditions like water, air, warmth, etc., it germinates to form a new plant and the new plant starts germinating from the seed. So that was it about the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Now the sexual reproduction in humans. Reproduction in human beings. Humans reproduce sexually. When girls and boys attain puberty, that is reproductively active stage, there occurs a lot of changes in their body. Changes like growth of hair under the arms, growth of hairs in the private parts that are pubic hairs, These changes are the common changes between males and females, but the uncommon changes are like widening of shoulders in boys, facial hair growth, and changes of voice, development of Adam's apple in the neck. On the other hand, female shows breast development and change in the structure of the body, like hip bones become wider and the weight gain on the hips region. Let's learn about the male reproductive system and then we'll learn about the female reproductive system. A male reproductive system comprises of a pair of testes, glands, accessory ducts, and male genitalia. Testis is a site where male gametes or germ cells are produced. They are located outside the abdominal cavity in the structure which is known as scrotum. This is to maintain lower temperature which is required for the formation of sperms. Testes also produce male hormone, sex hormone, which is known as testosterone, needed for the development of secondary sexual characteristics in males such as formation of beard and mustaches and also in the development of sperms. Vas deferens is an accessory duct, is a duct that transports sperms to urethra, which is a common passage for both urine and sperm ejaculation. Next comes the glands, prostrate gland and seminal vesicle, which are also found in males to nourish and for easy transport of sperm in the female genital tract. There is third gland also present, which is known as Cowper's gland, that produces a mucus like fluid that neutralizes the acidity of female vagina. All this secretion along with the sperm, they form a semen. Formation of male gamete or sperm in the testes is known as spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis is a process in which male gametes or the sperms are formed inside the testis. Sperms are haploid in nature. The seminiferous tubules, which are the cells present at the site of spermatogenesis. Testes also produce a male hormone, which is known as testosterone, which is needed for male secondary sexual characteristic development. All the parts of male reproductive system are at the summary with their function. Testes needed, the function is to produce sperm and testosterone. Epididymis, the function is maturation and storage of sperm. Sperm duct, which carries sperm from the epididymis to the urethra. Seminal vesicle, corpus gland, and prostrate. It produces a seminal fluid which feeds the sperm and allows them to swim. Together, collectively, it is known as semen. Urethra allows the passage of either urine or sperm. Penis, it places the sperm inside the body of a female. And lastly, scrotum, that keeps the testes at a lower temperature, that is around 35 degrees Celsius. This is the optimum temperature for meiosis to occur. That was it about the male reproductive system. Now let's learn about the female reproductive system. A female reproductive system consists of pair of ovaries, uterus, cervix, and vagina, that is, and external genitalia. Female egg or the ova are produced in the ovaries. Formation of ova in the ovary is known as oogenesis. Ovary produce female hormone also, such as estrogen and progesterone. These hormones are needed for female sexual development and also for pregnancy. Fallopian tube, which is also known as oviduct, It carries ova from ovary to the womb, which is uterus. Two oviducts join to form uterus, and uterus then opens into vagina via cervix. The opening of uterus is cervix, and the opening of female reproductive tract is vagina. Sperm enters into the female vagina at the time of sexual intercourse. Then the sperm reaches to fallopian tube, which is a site of fertilization, where the fusion of ova with the sperm take place and zygote formation take. And so the fallopian tube, which is oviduct, is a site of fertilization. Then zygote divides to form an embryo. This embryo gets implanted in the uterus, and this process is known as implantation. The embryo development occurs in uterus to form fetus. Mothers supply nutrition to the growing fetus via placenta. A placenta helps in the exchange of nutrients, gases, and removal of excretory products from fetus. The development of a child inside the uterus of the mother takes place for about 9 months. Then, by the rhythmic uterine contraction, it leads to delivery of the fetus outside the female body. If fertilization doesn't take place, if the egg is not fertilized, then the uterine lining get sheds off in the form of a fluid, and this is known as menstrual fluid. The discharge occurs from the vagina as a blood and mucus, and this entire is known as menstruation, and it lasts for about 2 to 8 days. And this entire cycle is known as ovulation cycle or menstrual cycle. It is being divided into 4 phases. Number 1, menstruation, then continued with follicular. Third one is ovulation, and fourth one is luteal. During menstruation, the uterus lining breaks down and menstruation occurs. During the second stage of menstruation, that is follicular phase, the uterus lining thickens again. It prepares itself for implantation. And on the ovulation, that is ovulation phase, ovary is going to release an ovum. Usually, if the standard menstruation cycle is of 28 days, then on the day of 14. Then the final stage is luteal phase, where the uterus lining continues to thicken, and if fertilization doesn't take place, it continues with menstruation, follicular, ovulation, and luteal phase. The important aspect in reproduction is to discuss about reproductive health. It is defined as a state of well-being in terms of safe sex, reproductive fitness, as well as absence of any reproductive diseases. Unsafe sex leads to different diseases which are known as sexually transmitted diseases. Some of the sexually transmitted diseases are as follow: gonorrhea, which is caused by bacteria; syphilis, which is caused again by a bacteria; AIDS, which stands with acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which is caused by virus HIV, which stands with human immunodeficiency virus. Then it comes the artificial reproductive technology, in that is IVF, which stands with in vitro fertilization. In vitro fertilization is an infertility treatment method. In this case, egg is fertilized with sperm outside the female body. Ovum is removed from the female body and is allowed to fertilize with sperm outside the body in an in vitro fertilization. The term in vitro stands with inside laboratory. So the fertilization takes place in laboratory. Here you can see on the screen. Through ovarian stimulation hormone therapy, eggs are collected from the ovary. Then, in the same way, sperms are also collected, and then both sperm and ovums are fertilized inside the lab. Once the zygote is formed, then embryo is transferred in the uterus. So this is how the fertilization takes place outside the body. Lastly, the birth control methods. For a country like India, where population is increasing continuously, there is a need for birth control methods. There are four types: physical, chemical, intrauterine, and surgical methods. In physical, condoms and diaphragms are barrier methods for birth control. They prevent the binding of sperm with the ovum. In chemical methods, it includes oral pills and vaginal pills. In case of intrauterine devices, here it prevents implantation of embryo in the uterus. Here the examples are CUT. And finally, lastly is the surgical, which is irreversible method. It includes vasectomy and tubectomy. Vasectomy in males and tubectomy in females. Vasectomy is done by cutting the vas deferens and then tied it up. And tubectomy involves cutting and tying of a small portion of oviducts in the female. So if we compare all the methods, surgical method is irreversible. Physical method prevents from STDs, that is sexually transmitted disease. Among all, the effective method is intrauterine contraceptive method that include IUDs and implants. And chemical method, it has its own side effects because it creates the hormonal imbalance in female's body. Thanks for watching.